Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Need Some Introduction. On today's episode, we'll be breaking down the 8th episode of Widow's Bay, I think, very popular. It's hard to know what's popular or not, but I believe this has been one of the bigger successes, definitely conversation-wise, for Apple TV. And oftentimes with these type of streamers, that's the most important thing. Joining me for this conversation, I think the first official joining of this conversation, although we've been discussing it here and there throughout our recent conversations, is Darren. And Darren, so curious to get your feel for this episode, both for the show up until this point. But of course, for anybody who's a regular listener here, Darren and I have been breaking down Euphoria, which just wrapped up this week as well. And Darren was not available for that recording. So we will also be discussing your opinion of that finale. So Darren, first of all, how are you feeling? How are you doing?
Yeah, good, Victor. Yeah, apologies for missing Monday's episode. My brother-in-law was in town, so we had lots of activities to do and catch up. And yeah, I think Widow's Bay is getting popular. Other podcasts I listen to, they bring it up, even if they've watched it or they haven't watched it. So it's out there. People are talking about it. So yeah, coming up to the finale in a couple of weeks, I think people are definitely on board.
I have a feeling it's going to really spike in popularity these next couple of weeks, considering how, people like a mythology and people like to speculate and people like a mystery. And this one is, it's all started coming together early on, by the way, with this show. I was like, maybe it's just going to go week to week with another spooky happening, like riffing on a different genre, which of course, explicitly in this episode, we are definitely riffing on yet another genre, a horror genre. So that is still in play, but the story is really coming together, and there definitely is going to be a lot of speculating. Reddit's already blowing up with speculation on this. So if that's any indicator, the conversation is going to just get more heated over the next couple of episodes. And I can't wait for those final two. As a matter of fact, Alan, who was emailing, who's co-hosted on some other episodes as well, was saying, I don't know if I'm going to keep watching it. I kind of quit. And he texted me last night when the episode dropped and said, I haven't been anticipating an episode of show week to week since Pluribus. This is basically his Pluribus. So I'm like, there you go. Someone who's not even a hardcore horror fan is basically, this is their most anticipated film series of the week, I should say. And I feel like that has become the moment, that culturally that's the moment. Everyone's talking about this show.
That is awesome. I'm thinking this week's episode, I don't want to spoil it, but it was very good, I think. Yes. Whereas last week's, the two-parter episode, or the two that they dropped at once, was possibly a low point in the season. So it was quite good that they got those away, got those off together, so we could get back into this anthology type action that we've kind of got used to in the first few episodes. So yeah, back strong now, I think.
It's interesting that you say that, because I had the same opinion, and but that does not seem to be the reaction. I think having the backstory explicitly laid out, and I outlined this in my discussion last week, I prefer having to connect the dots myself, which is kind of the viewer I am. And in a way, having it all laid out, it's as if that triggered people to start doing all this, plotting and theorizing on Reddit, etc. So, it had already started, but it kind of got activated there. So I think because the show explicitly became more schematic and about this history and everything, that's what kind of activated people. But for me, like you said, I kind of liked when that was all just background and we were just kind of in the experience of it. And I'm almost certain going to pay off in some way. The mythology is extremely important here, much more important than I expected early on, but I didn't need to have everything just kind of laid out there. Although there were obviously comic highlights in that episode for sure.
Yes. Yeah. My wife actually has dropped out. She dropped out of this last episode because she wasn't keen on last week. So I'm trying to convince her to catch up because I really enjoyed watching this last night.
Yeah. I have some questions about what worked better and worse for me on this particular episode. Although yes, in general, it's a highlight for sure. Couple of things I wanted to run by you first. And I did actually, one of the things I did want to mention is I do want to get more detail on your opinion of the two episodes, because I don't think we really discussed them since I didn't get to discuss this with you in the Euphoria episode. So I want to definitely start the conversation there when we get around to it. But before we get around to it, a couple of things. One is Euphoria, the finale. What did you think? I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse given the fact that the cultural conversation has been pretty negative on this, but yeah, anything you wanted to add to the general opinion and consensus? I actually think some of the things in this episode did work. So if you did have a positive feel for it, I'd love to hear it.
I was definitely positive on the finale of Euphoria, especially the character's death halfway through the episode. And also, I guess we're spoiling it now because it's all done and dusted. Yeah, I loved the filmmaking of it. I think the craft, the way that it's shot on film and the way that the set pieces are designed, I am all for it. I think I can forgive all the mess of the themes for the thrill of the filmmaking. I loved Ali coming back as this kind of revenge icon. And I was actually quite emotional at Rue's death. I thought it was really well done, quite different to the way that it was, that kind of her relapses have been portrayed in the past. And I thought this was quite real and quite devastating. And yeah, to see Ali question his faith and get his revenge or whatever he needed to do to protect Rue, I thought was quite thrilling. But where it all ended up, maybe I was disappointed in a few things. Like Maddie had not much to do. When Alamo grabbed her, put the gun to her head, I was off it. I did not like Maddie in that situation at all. I wanted to see her being a bit more powerful. Cassie just being left as just this sad doll in a dollhouse. Yeah. I wasn't on board with either. I wanted her to just dominate her industry, which maybe she will, but it's just not going to bring her the joy that she expects. And the whole ending at the end with the house with the American flag out the front and just this happy family and kind of isolated from the rest of the depravity of the Euphoria world. I'm not quite sure what they were saying there, but yeah, complete mess, but love it so much. Love the filmmaking so much that, I can forgive all of that because it's just a thrill ride.
Yeah, I mean, as I outlined in that, I think that there was suspense and there was some really solid filmmaking, and there's also great performances. Like I think that in a way the show necessitated. I just said this to you last week that I'm not sure why we even needed to have the backstory again for the Coleman Domingo's character Ali. What was his actual name? Derek something in here. I forget what his actual name was, but we find out what his actual name was here at the very end. But hanging it on him because he was so good in all of the scenes, he elevated the material. So all of that is really good. A little too much of, a pastiche of other revenge thrillers from the 70s, which of course a lot of 70s influence here in his filmmaking, this whole entire series, but specifically this episode, this particular season of the show. Anyway, the point is that it's all very well made and entertaining from moment to moment. But as I outlined there, it feels like such an utter mess. Like they have, it's as if they didn't know what to do with certain characters. It really feels like they could only shoot Jacob Elordi's character in a couple of sets. Same thing for Jules as well. Mm-hmm. And anyway, there was it's really, and thematically all over the place. And we're not focused on these girls, right? Like what happens, these girls now transposing that high school dynamic into the real world. And we introduce not only Alamo and that whole thing, we also have a lot of time spent on, Lori and her gang of people. And what was all that about? There just seems like so much real estate of the season was very cool set pieces oftentimes and suspenseful moments, but all at the end where I'm just kind of scratching my head going so what was all that, whatever, 25-30% of the season we allocated to some of these storylines? It really confused me. And but I mean, it's very interesting filmmaking for sure. So
confusing is a good word for it.
Very confused by it for sure.
And Fez breaking out of prison, doing his parkour moves.
Well, that turns out to be some kind of death dream, right? So I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Great seeing Fez's face back, by the way. I really
that was a beautiful
character.
Yeah. Some leftover footage, beautiful footage. Yeah.
Yeah, and Oh, just there's some mystifying things about it. How's the daughter of that homestead family? She looks so beautiful. She doesn't look like she's part of this family. I thought
she's got an OnlyFans,
possibly,
by the way. She's
absolutely. That's what I was thinking, because I thought that's why she was placed there, to kind of bridge the gap between Cassie's story, but they didn't go there at all. But I just kind of made that up in my head. It seems like you did too.
She's eventually going to join Cassie's girl house. So.
Oh, totally. She's far too innocent. As soon as she leaves the confines of that farm, she's just going to, terrible things going to happen to that poor girl, especially if Rue is one of her role models. I liked Rue at the end, holding hands with them all and smiling. Like, it's all cute. It's all lovely, but so many characters here were not given the care or the ending that I wanted to see for them. For sure. So, it was a little bit disappointing there. Yeah.
Do you think Bishop and Batty are together now, hand in hand?
Oh, which is kind of ridiculous. No, I do not. I can't see that at all. Yeah, I don't think he sees her as a love interest. I think he just cares. But that relationship was not given enough for him to completely backstab Alamo, I don't think, just to save Matt. Is that why he did it? I don't think so. I think he wanted to get rid of Alamo for a long time, and this was a great way of doing it. But the confusion of, is he in love with Maddie, or does he see her as a daughter or a partner? It wasn't even explored, so I don't know at all.
And what do you make? I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse again. But first of all, Rue is the cow somehow. She was the miracle cow, but was born as Rue around the time that Rue died. Okay, whatever that means. But worse than that, I think, is the symbolism that, Rue sees a burning bush, right? And she's on the route. The number is if you look up Exodus, that is when Moses is, basically saying, set my people free. So Moses, right? He frees the Israelites, but he doesn't make it, right? He dies before they make it to Israel. So Rue died, but who was she setting free? Was it because via Ali, they have been set free. So what? They're going to go work at Cassie's sex house? I don't know what's going on over here. I really don't know. The more you think about it, the more confusing it gets. And by the way, like, if you don't confuse me by putting all this stuff in there, and then I'm going to have to, you want me to read it. I'm just trying to read it. And I don't know if you finished your thesis in putting all that stuff in there.
Yeah, bizarre. Yeah, season 4 is set in Cassie's sex house, surely, because that's the whole season that I'd love to see. But yeah, and what was her friend Lexi? The whole scene of Lexi sitting down saying she read the Bible. Oh, she read it a couple of times. Come on, do people actually?
The new one?
When I was very do people actually sit down and read the Bible like a novel? If they do, then that's great. I mean, I think I tried when I was very, very young and didn't get very far. But Lexi apparently is going to inform all her TV show writing now. Yeah, unlikely.
The speaking of reading the Bible, and what's his name from Clockwork Orange? She loves reading the Bible.
I did enjoy Ali. He's questioning his faith, but then he sits with the family and he says grace so beautifully.
Yeah.
But then he's almost rejecting all faith at the end. Yeah. So I thought it's interesting. There's some interesting stuff, but I don't understand where it all ties together. It's all a bit confusing.
Yeah, I mean, and I only saw this after I did my whole commentary, but the Levinson was talking about how what he's trying to represent is that, like, all systems in culture are broken, and these kids are now having to live in all these broken systems. So it's America has failed, the church has failed, the capitalism has failed, everything, And I'm like, I don't, honestly, maybe that's supposed to be in there, but I couldn't help but notice that, like, all these women have to be rescued, and all these guys are talking like manosphere talking points that you read on toxic TikToks and Twitter accounts. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know what you're putting all these talking points in there and hanging out with Nazis and everything. And then this is just completely incoherent. I have to say. So, despite the fact that, I mean, I think that, as negative as that all sounds, I think that Levinson writes great scenes. Those narrations from Rue and all those flashback episodes are so well done and so well staged, and the direction is so solid. So he definitely has talent. Maybe he just needs someone to, I mean, he probably would never do this, but maybe he needs a writing partner. But I don't know. Not my decision.
Yeah, we didn't get any flashbacks in the last 2 episodes, which is a bit disappointing. And even our drug dealers have failed us, pumping their stuff full of fentanyl. I mean, it's killing their customers. It's broken, as you say.
Yeah. So, I mean, interesting, but not fully satisfying for me anyway. And they're definitely, I mean, they announced, of course, there will be no for a follow-up season of Euphoria. I think that theoretically, given some of these side stories they've introduced, I wouldn't be surprised if HBO would say like, hey, let's take some of these characters and spin something off completely. But I don't think it would ever be, it would have to be like from the world of Euphoria. It wouldn't be like Euphoria because you've killed off a lot of your main characters, including the narrator of the show up until this point. So it seems like Euphoria itself is gone, but maybe, but I mean, obviously you can't bring Cassie back. Sydney Sweeney's way too busy. So, but I'd love to see a Maddie series and see her like working her way through, put Maddie in something for sure. This actress doesn't work enough.
Absolutely. I haven't seen her in anything else. And I think she's fantastic. And I really was keen for her story arc this season. And we got a bit of it, but we didn't get a whole satisfying ending for her. So yeah, bring that on. The Maddie spinoff.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, next thing I wanted to bring up was I've teased this multiple times and talked about it with Alan again on the Patreon conversation, but the phenomena that we see now, that it's so funny I cannot help but laugh about this. It annoys the hell out of me that everybody's like, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Young audiences will not go to the movie theaters. You don't understand. I am making a He-Man movie about the toys I played with 45 years ago, says the 70-year-old who wants to see a He-Man movie. Why aren't the 14-year-olds showing up at the movie theater? And now we have 2 examples of these kids who have come of age on the internet and are making movies on YouTube. And then simultaneously, these 2 movies are out in theaters at the same time. And you can bring up other examples of things that happened this year as well, even more. But this is so pronounced at this moment in time where like a Mandalorian movie is completely flopping. And meanwhile, I mean, not completely flopping. It looks like it's going to make around $300 to $350 million, which adjusted for inflation is the worst performance of a Star Wars film ever, although it'll probably still be a modest success given that they scaled back the budget. But it looks like both Backrooms and the Curry Barker movie, the Obsession, are both going to probably make around $350 million a piece. So as much money as the Mandalorian movie will. The Mandalorian movie cost $140 million to make and $150 million to market. And Backrooms cost $10 million to make and a little bit over $10 million in marketing budget. And of course, famously, Obsession cost less than $1 million and around $15 million in marketing. So, and they're going to make more money than the Mandalorian Grogu. All that is to say, there are plenty of people in the younger generation that will go see these movies in the theater if you make movies that they want to see, not that their grandfathers want to see, that they want to see.
Amazing. Yeah, it's taken, 20 years or so for YouTube filmmakers to make it to the big screen. And people are accepting it. So bring it on. I don't know what it says about me, but I'm actually interested in seeing He-Man and the Masters of the Universe because I love playing with those when I was a kid.
I hear the movie's good, by the way. So there you go.
That's positive. And I did see The Mandalorian and I saw it in 4DX. So that was my first experience with that roller coaster format of watching the film, which was probably a good way to see it.
Did you punch in the ribs at all?
Yeah, they punch you in the back. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. There's always a punching in the back. So,
yeah, it was quite interesting. I'd never been to a cinema equipped with that before, so that made that movie a little bit more than passable. But I haven't seen Backrooms yet, but I'm keen to see Obsession. I haven't seen it.
I was so certain you had seen it, but if your kids are I'm sure your kids are very curious to see Backrooms, right?
The kids are very curious. They're more curious about Obsession. So this word of mouthing of Obsession, people are coming up to me at work. Have you seen Obsession? I'm like, people that I would never think would go to see this have seen it and want to talk about how thrilling it is. So yeah, I haven't seen Backrooms yet. Did you watch it?
I did see Backrooms and I liked it very much, by the way. So I do not know the whole online mythology, and it's interesting. The word of mouth is phenomenally positive for Obsession, and some of the hardcore fans are not as enthused with Backrooms because, and by the way, like there's all these things I speculated on after seeing Backrooms. Like I have a theory of what I'm seeing, and apparently I've discovered over the course of hearing interviews that basically, if you watch all of the Backrooms shorts, all the mysteries are revealed in there. And honestly, I don't think I need it. Like I prefer my interpretation of the film. And but it's really effective, by the way. Like I saw it in the theater, and it's worth seeing in the theater, even though you could say, hey, I watched this on my laptop. Why can't I watch it at home? First of all, there's a crowd of people, which is always great to see a movie in a crowd. And just the way that the language of the film, because this guy's didn't go to film school or something, although he's obviously seen a lot of films, but the language of the film is very odd. He probably doesn't even really know David Lynch very well, but it feels Lynchian, but like on a much larger scale, just that there's like dream logic and things just don't make sense. And that the geography of the spaces you're in are so odd. And it's all very unsettling, just oftentimes just being in this space. And it's very cool. Like it's like seductively, but then there's just scenes where like they'll open a door and the door is completely blacked out. And then all of a sudden, something like enormous will start moving. Like you were looking at it the whole time and you didn't realize it. And it starts to like step through the doorway. And then, they run away. A lot of this is done with like analog cameras and stuff. But all of that is like really unsettling, very creepy. And and I think I really like where it ends. And of course, a lot of this has to do with the fact that this movie, despite these probably special effects, most of these sets, I'm sure they're practical sets and a lot of special effects to extend them, that it's grounded with only a handful of performers. And the two leads are both Academy Award nominees. So that helps a lot, right? Chiwetel Ejiofor as the main protagonist who finds these back rooms in the basement of his furniture store. And then his psychiatrist, who is Renata Rensby, who just was Academy Award nominated for Sentimental Value. So anyway, so it's very, really well grounded, great performances, and I thought really interesting and almost an experimental film, and making a fortune. So fascinating result, and of course,
I think the story,
phenomena as far as like A24, the biggest. Like A24 has never had a movie to make $100 million in the U.S. Marty Supreme fell just shy. This movie made $100 million in the U.S. in 6 days, so pretty amazing.
That's insane. I mean, the story of this filmmaker, I think, is super interesting. The fact that, as you say, he can't have seen too many movies. He's only 19, especially movies over the decades that can inform your style. He's just been in a container making these Backrooms films for, for as long as he has been. And it transfers the story, and his technique transfers to the big screen so much that it's making so much money people want to see it. I think it's fascinating. I saw a talk with Mark Duplass, who apparently is in the film, yes. And he said he thought he was hired as like, not only as an actor, but as someone who could support the director, being a filmmaker himself and being someone who has shepherded young filmmakers through projects. And he said he didn't need it. This young kid did not need any guide at all. He had his DOP, everything was completely researched and prepared and organized and set, that the film just was made without anyone's help. So yeah, it's just incredible way that a 19-year-old, I mean, I was making films at 19. There wasn't Backrooms, I can tell you that.
Right. You're absolutely correct. He will turn 21 this year. He is, still 20. He shot this movie when he was 19. But he started this movie when he was 18. Like he was actually talking about this in an interview, that he was approached when he was 17 years old to make a feature film. And when he was 18, he started this project. He actually has a screenwriter, and he talked about this in an interview, that they went back and forth working on the script for like a year. And you'll be like, well, that seems odd that, he would need to write so much script. But actually it does. Not that there's tons of dialogue in the film, actually, but wait till you see it. I think that as an older person, the movie will resonate more with you, because it is about like the psychological loops you get into it. They literally say that the very first line of dialogue is everyone gets stuck in their own loops when he's talking to a psychiatrist. And it's as if like this is a metaphor for this like psychological hall of mirrors that we can get into if you have anxiety, if you have, different kinds of just obsessions of your own, right? And and so it's like from that perspective, you read the whole thing as a metaphor, it resonates, I think, a lot more than if you're like a kid and being like, and I've actually had this conversation with somebody who was like, it wasn't scary. They're like, what, that hallway scary or something? And it's like, no, it's not about that. It's about like the fear of being trapped inside of that place, right? But then the lure of going deeper and deeper. And also how these things start to get deformed. Like you see the things that are personal on the outside, that each time you get like deeper into these levels, the more deformed those things become. And anyway, I think that as a metaphor is more powerful if you're older. So anyway, all that is to say that I'm pretty sure that this is stuff that was developed over time, because I can't imagine like a 17-year-old being like hung up on, like this ex relationship you had with your ex-wife. The concerns of a middle-aged man basically is probably not top of mind to a 17-year-old. So, but it's convincing and it's well done, I think, in my opinion. I think it's very sharp. And I mean, obviously, this is not a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination. In my Letterboxd review, by the way, I gave it 3.5 stars. And without spoiling anything, I said the last moment of this film, which I will not spoil, bumps it up like a full half star, because I'm like, whoa, okay, good. And but I can't wait to see what these kids do next, for sure.
Cool. And is this going to be a sequel, prequel, TV series, anthology type of thing to go on, or is this one and done?
I don't think he wants to make a sequel, but I mean, it would be pretty easy to, first of all, since it has a mythology that is apparently all solved, all the things that to me are just like more interesting as unknowable or metaphors is apparently all solved in those short films. Since there is all this mythology, I am pretty sure that whether he makes the next one or not, this thing is going to be spun off, because think about what the cost of these movies are going to be. Even if you get like really able actors, basically the whole budget is their salary, and the special effects would be probably like a similar budget to what we saw here. And what's the next one going to cost? $20 million, and they're going to make another $200 or $300 million. It's a no-brainer, honestly. But I would prefer that doesn't happen, but inevitably it will. You can't. It's like every horror movie you ever seen. You can't make a Saw or a Friday the 13th or anything that's like, I made that for $3 million and it made $100 million. In this case, like $300 million. There's no way they don't make more. So.
Well, that's great. I mean, there's all this, consternation about no one going to the movies to watch original IP. It's got to be decades long. Well, these two movies have proved that people will go out and see new things and, latch onto it. And then things that are decades old, like Star Wars, maybe fall to the side a bit.
Yeah. And then, and Masters of the Universe, which doesn't cost as much as the Star Wars film. But you can imagine that if that movie makes $300 million worldwide, which, by the way, probably will not, everyone will be like, oh, wow, what a success. We broke even. Meanwhile, these films are coming out and making hundreds of millions of dollars, in profits, sheer profits in the movie theaters. Like it's before they even get to home video. So it's pretty amazing. And of course, all driven by extremely young audiences. Oh, and the last thing I want to bring up is, not Obsession. Although Obsession, when I saw that, I'm like, A24 definitely bid on Obsession, but lost the bidding to Focus, which is another, they're owned by Universal, but it's kind of a mini major. But anyway, they lost the bidding war, but A24 was definitely in the mix. And what I find fascinating about it is that A24 has figured this out, right? They announced that like 80% of the box office for Backrooms was under the age of 35. And the drama earlier this year, which was also a big hit for them, made up around $150 million, also a very small budget, a relatively small budget. And Marty Supreme, which was their most expensive film, I think it cost $60 million, but then made around $20 million. Both of those films, like 75% of the audience was under the age of 35. So they have figured something out in getting these younger audiences into theaters. And these are different genres and everything, right? But they've made these films, whether they're comedies, dramas, thrillers, whatever they are, horror films, they've made them into events for this generation. And I am a huge fan of A24. They are really building a brand and a studio the way old school, the way they used to do it. So I'm a big fan of their success.
That's so cool. Yeah, they need to be events for people to go and see. That's what people want to see. They want to see things that other people will see. So yeah, brilliant. Love everything that A24 does. Pretty much the drama. Oh, Rue at the end of Euphoria kind of turned into that character from the drama.
Yes,
I thought
exactly. I forgot to bring that up. There's a connection there between the two things. Okay, let's finally get into Widow's Bay. So yeah, I wanted to get your impression, because we didn't discuss it at all, of the double episode drop last week. And I, went into a lot of detail with that in our conversations. For me, the flashback episode worked a lot less well than the present day story. And I kind of felt that it was a little redundant, right? Like all the stuff that hits emotionally in the second episode with this guy who's been alive for all this time, and him talking about this communing with this demon and everything, all that stuff, like the interesting aspects of it, are all in the present day version of him talking about that. And the presentation of it in the past, other than the fact that Gilpin, she is hilarious and gives a great performance. And again, this is like kind of like the Euphoria critique, because it looks great. Like, what an incredible evocation of this old time, milieu, this the island of back in 1702. So it's really well made and everything, but I didn't honestly need to see any of that. It just didn't add much to it.
I tend to agree. Yeah, it was a bit dry. I thought it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah,
and it seemed like they needed to introduce the previous protector of the island to be able to make the next episode. But yeah, a bit dry. I love Betty Gilpin as well, like you, but it just didn't do much for me. And I was like, uh-oh, as this show hit a pothole. But the episode after it very much reminded me of Jaws, the three people on the boat. The most interesting thing to me was something that Wick said about when a man is going off to his death, even though he thinks he wants it, he's going to do anything he can to fight it,
right?
Which I thought was brilliant. And the way that incorporated, then there's a fight scene, and this man that doesn't want to die, even though he's been alive for centuries or whatever, and he really should be dead, but he still couldn't bring himself to accept that. I thought that episode was much better, than the flashback.
The rules are very neat on this show, by the way, which I guess is part of the joke that, imagine that not only that these things we've seen in these old movies are not only true, but they're like exactly and literally true. Like they're literally the guy, Warren, he passes the boundary line where like it has a little red light so you can perfectly see where you are allowed to cross. They've delineated very clearly. Honestly, I guess if you live on this island and people know this is true, you really should have a very bright red blinking light, just like you do there, to tell you exactly how far you can go. But it hasn't moved at all. Whatever. But and then of course he immediately turns into just bones and Vienna sausages. So the that is very funny. Like it is just immediately boom, he just turns into bones.
Yeah, great. Well, the fishermen, of all the decades that they've been there, they know where that delineation is. They know if they go past this line, you're gone.
We died. We died immediately. Yeah. So you learned that lesson.
So funny the way they do that.
But funny and good. And I loved all the Jaws reference. And there's the whole story about all the men who die on Indianapolis eaten by sharks. And that's like Wick has his story about that night that the storm almost took them, and the tentacle was grabbing at him and shook it off, only to find out that it was actually his girlfriend Jerry's brother who he shook off, and that ended their relationship. I guess he could never live with himself after that. And now, of course, that leads us to this current episode. By the way, directed by what's his name? Andrew. Oh man, what's his name? He's the guy who
Andrew DeYoung.
DeYoung, yes, he directed most of The Chair Company, and of course, Friendship, which we saw last year as well and discussed here on the podcast. So it's funny, he's comedic, but even in those shorts and definitely in The Chair Company, there is something menacing about it. So it makes sense that you would get somebody to make something that is comedic and horrific at the same time. So tell me what you thought about this episode. My baggage? It's my baggage. Is that right?
Something like that. Yeah, something about
your baggage. Sorry, your baggage.
As soon as I saw Andrew DeYoung's name at the end of that, I just laughed and laughed because there is very big Chair Company vibes on this episode. I love this episode. This is the one I've been waiting for since they introduced the
slasher.
Boogeyman in episodes 1 or 2. So funny. So funny. It's a trope that we've seen in dozens and dozens of horror movies over the years. Did it start with Halloween? Is that the first one that kind of did this? I don't know. And then continues through Friday the 13th and all of those types slasher with a mask and a knife. But the way that he sets up these scenes and the way that Patricia, the character, knows that she's in deadly danger, but
Yes.
still brings an element of hilariousness
Yes.
to the way she's dealing with this guy. She's got time to kind of run ahead, set up a little trap or something while
Yes.
he's walking, because they walk at the same in a violent nature, another kind of
Yes.
slasher which
Exactly.
we see. They'd only have one speed, these guys. Yeah, I
And
love
they don't
this episode.
divert. Like, you see her setting the trap, and he's not going to change his direction. He's not going to walk around the puddle. He's got to do it. He's like a golem or something. He's just got to.
Straight through the fuel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it. The wife went to bed. I was late at night. I watched it. I thought it was just fantastic. Yeah. And more Patricia, please. She's the heart and soul of this show. And I love every scene that she's in. She admits she lies. How funny is that?
Yes.
I think you brought up that you thought she was lying. Well, you're correct. But she wasn't lying about the boogeyman, but she was lying
Not
about
this
the phone
time.
calls. And you know that she's going to tase her old friend or her
Yeah.
frenemy. You know, she's just holding that taser there. You know that's going to happen. And it does, and it's very satisfying. So, yeah, love this episode. We're back on track with Widow's Bay, and we're heading towards an amazing conclusion, I hope.
Yeah, so many things to touch on. Let's start with actually, before we get to the killer, because that's like the big plot point, because I said this to Alan last night when he had not noticed that the episodes drop early, and he was all excited, and he emailed me going like, oh my God, the episode's out. I'm like, I already watched it. I'm way ahead of you. I already watched it. So, I told him it was, as usual with this show, it was scary and funny and sad. All three things. So let's kind of step through the scary and the funny and the sad of all of it. They start off, first of all, patting themselves on the back. We did it. We killed the last Warren. No, you didn't, you dum-dums. But, we killed the last Warren, and we freed the place from its curse. And this gets Tom so excited, he even goes and buys Red Sox tickets for his son. He's going to take the ferry across that river and take him to that baseball game that very weekend, right? But no one's leaving the island, by the way. There's a storm brewing, a huge storm brewing. So that's kind of like the setup at the beginning. Of course, we know this is not going to play out well for anybody, but for the moment, they see a little ray of light here. And but of course, the other fallout, which I'm going to save this for the end of the episode, is of course Evan and his brother, his dad, that confrontation, which again is comedic and then terrifying and extremely sad all the way through. But so then at that point, we go back. We spend a lot of time, again, like you said, every time we're with this actress. What's her name? Katie O'Brien? Is that her name? Did I get her name right?
Kate O'Flynn.
O'Flynn. I'm sorry, O'Brien. O'Flynn. Katie O'Flynn. Every time we're with her, Patricia, absolutely just make her the center of all the episodes because she's brilliant. And so no one could have been better to be the final girl than she is. And I love how this is infuriating every time you see these slasher movies, that somehow these people have never seen a slasher movie, even though they're like now in a slasher movie. This girl has seen slasher movies, and I love her technique, basically. But we'll get to all that. So, she's in the house, and we see hints of this, that Wick has gone back to the museum, and we find out, by the way, that Jerry's got a boyfriend, right? Wick's going to try to make a move on her, and it turns out, nope, she's got a boyfriend already. But while he's there, he also notices that someone has broken out the mask of the boogeyman, and he goes, oh, it must have been some kid who was, vandalizing the museum. But Wick is worried that things aren't quite right. He goes to check out the house, and the door's been smashed from the inside out, and the boogeyman is back. And he starts driving around town. I guess he wouldn't think about Patricia right away, but he does eventually find her. But of course, we know that she's at risk because that's just where the story's going to go. And then this is where the show is really, the buildup of all this is truly terrifying. Where she hears the breathing, he's in the other room. She sneaks down the stairs, is trying to get out the door. The taser, you got to have your taser charged, lady. And or a stun gun, by the way, stun gun, not a taser. That's something that people were going on and on about on the Reddit. It's a stun gun, but she only has it at 2%, but she brings it with her anyway, and the charging cable in case she finds an outlet to charge it to. And very that cool visual where you just see him like emerge from the doorway. And all of this is really scary. Like this opening segment before the boogeyman actually emerges was really terrifying filmmaking. Do you agree? Like this is like very good. Basically, we've seen this in many slashers that you and I have both watched, but this was well done, no?
Totally agree. Great technique, especially when she goes out to check the car. You see her close the door, and she comes back, the door's wide open, she just walks straight in. I mean, genius. I love that stuff. I think about that when that happens in real life. It's like, hang on, did I open that? Did I close that?
You figure yourself out. I've watched too many horror movies, right? Exactly.
And when she's tiptoeing down the stairs, she's so smart. She's switched on. She knows something's wrong. She knows someone's in the house. So she just acts cool and calm and tiptoes down the stairs. It's not like, oh, I'm ditzy. I don't understand. Is there anyone in the house? She knows someone's in the house. Yep. She knows. She's experienced this before with the boogeyman and comes straight back to it. I love it.
And then this is, for me, a little tonally off for me, I would say. And I wonder what you thought of it. Once it goes into straight up Michael Myers, Halloween, obviously even the music, that like repetitive music has like, makes you think about the Halloween theme without actually sounding like Halloween theme. But, he's a mass killer. He walks incessantly. He's unkillable. All this stuff is, very Michael Myers coded. Even, by the way, of course, I'm sure you have seen the original Halloween so many times, but Jamie Lee Curtis going and banging on the doors and people ignoring her or not answering the door when she's screaming for help happens literally here. Although in this case, it's just not people ignoring her. It seems like nobody's actually in the houses. Like, where are these people? I don't know what they're doing, but maybe it's just very late and they're just in bed. But I thought if someone's screaming down my street, I probably would wake up in the middle of the night. But she eventually ends up at the book club where her friends are having a book club at this hour of the night. If it really is late, maybe it's not that late. And they're reading The Lovely Bones. Interesting choice of books to read. And of course, she has that confrontation. Oh, but the thing I was going to say is that for me, tonally, this is a little bit off. I would have preferred that he was more menacing and that you could have Patricia be Patricia in the context of it, so it could still be scary, but she would be funny on her own. For me, the whole tone of it became a little too funny. Did you have that? How did you feel? Did this work for you here, or did you feel it was a little too funny and lost kind of the edge?
Thinking about it now, possibly, but I did find it hilarious, and I just went with it. Yeah.
And that's my preference, is what I'm being clear about there, because I don't want to criticize the performance, because I think it's so funny when she is like, she stops, she's like breathing heavily in the middle of the street, and then he like comes around the corner, and of course she doesn't wait like these idiots in these movies. She doesn't wait for him to get close. As soon as he like appears at the corner, she's like, oh my God, she's so frustrated. She keeps doing that over and over again. Like I said, she's like completely inhabiting this Patricia character. It's so hilarious. Like, Patricia as Final Girl was just so utterly hilarious. But it was so funny, it stopped being scary. That was my opinion of it at the moment. And she ends up, so first of all, they had two stops, right? So first of all, she ends up at the book club and she has that confrontation. She admits, I love that. She admits, yeah, I did lie about the phone calls. But then, I told one person, and then, I just wanted to say it one time, and then they blabbed about it, which was, by the way, like the theory I had when I was covering it, that it could have just been something like that. Just kind of wanted a little attention. Goes, oh yeah, it happened to me too. And then, of course, they go and tell everybody in school. And she says it. She goes, I couldn't stop. I couldn't deny the lie at that point. So it was too big a lie. She says you have to keep doubling down on it. Well, now everybody knows. But they also know that the boogeyman is real and was indeed stalking her now. What did you think about he got into the house and he's upstairs, but and I'm like, oh, he's going to be in the house and he's going to kill all those women, which I was kind of rooting for, by the way. I was like, a couple of them I hope survived, but most of them, if he kills most of them, not so bad. But no, he really is after Patricia, right? He like hurdles himself out of the house, out through the window, and attacks her in the street, attacks that EMT. So yeah, there's quite a body count here.
Yeah, I forgot about the EMT that ran him over almost, I think. I thought it was going to turn into a mass murder house, but he's only interested in Patricia. And I don't think any of the other girls even see him at all. So they've just witnessed Patricia come in, destroy their friend with a stun gun.
I have a huge...
They don't even see the boogeyman.
But I mean, they seem to be reacting when he smashes through the window. The people inside seem to be like, oh my God, what is that? What is that? I'm like, no one looked out the window and then saw this guy get hit by a car. And think about it. Like, I was assuming like when she wakes up and the EMTs are there trying to resuscitate the killer. It's so funny. Everybody's trying to help out the killer over and over and over again. Very funny. But they, get attending to the killer, and he comes up and slits the guy's throat. And then she ends up at the gas station, and she takes the gas nozzle off, and it doesn't work. So she has to run inside and ask for $20 on number 3. So she can pour it out onto the street. And of course, they're seeing her do this, thinking she's a crazy person. She sets him on fire, only for them to go out there and extinguish the fire. Again, saving the killer. It's so funny. Oh, God, so funny. And then he grabs that guy, flings him into the trees. Now, at this point, the sheriff has to know something very bad is going on, right? And it's undeniable. But of course, the shop owner did bring his shotgun out, and she gets to cock that shotgun and shoot this guy. And I love this, by the way. He's in the back of the ambulance, and they're like, oh my God, have they not learned anything? And then the camera pulls back a little bit, and she has the shotgun against his skull for the rest of the night. He's in the morgue. They're wheeling him into the furnace, and she still has the gun. He's like, if he moves, I am shooting him in the skull. And by the way, all final girls should behave exactly like this. Like, you put the gun like he's dead now. No, this gun is not moving until like we remove his head from his body.
It's the best detail I've ever seen in any parody of a horror film. Scary movies coming out soon. They're not going to have something as good as this. I mean, how good? And she's like asking the crematorium guy, is there another way out?
Is there a way out?
Of the oven?
No. Yep. And then they open up the doors, just a pile of ashes, and she's just like, good. Like,
satisfied.
She has to see the entire, just dust. Okay, we're good.
Genius. There's got to be no sequel to this Boogeyman because he's done. He's gone.
Well, this version of it, right? We don't know how this thing works, right? So,
yeah, true.
Because that's a question I have, by the way. This is the one thing that actually frustrated me, and this is very intentional. But don't you want to take that mask off? Like, if it's some current resident of the island that somehow has been inhabited with this killer, don't you want to know who it is? If it's just some hundreds of year old evil being, don't you want to see what's under the mask? I want to see what's under the mask.
Well, whose job is it to take the mask off? I don't know about that. Did we see that mask earlier on in the series? It felt like we should have seen it because of the display case being broken. I'm not sure if we did. I can't remember.
I honestly don't remember that, but it has to have been in the series because you see that glass is broken, and we're supposed to know right away what it represents. And I guess I didn't pay. It's probably in the museum episode all the way back. That's episode 1, I think, perhaps, when the New York Times journalist shows up at the museum. It's probably then, but that's a long time ago at this point. So,
yeah, it would have been a nice detail to remember what that mask looked like because I didn't twig, but. Yeah, taking the mask off, you really want to, wouldn't you? But it just does not even occur to these characters to see who's under there. It's like, that's the Boogeyman. We don't want to know about him. We just want to get rid of him.
The other thing I love about this detail, by the way, is how many times is it like nobody believes the female protagonist usually in these films, and then the guy killer sits up and slits the doctor's throat or whatever and escapes the morgue again. And I like the fact that like whoever has spoken to whoever in this interim, nobody's asking questions. They're like, and by the way, of course, they live on a haunted island. So if someone's like, this is that boogeyman character that you've been hearing about, and he did like attack me, like the sheriff is saying this or whatever, and they're just like, we are going to cremate this guy right now. And it's like, that's brilliant. Let's do it right now. Like, there's no questions. There's no pushback. There's no bureaucracy. They're like, into the oven right now. I'm like, yes, everybody should behave this way in horror movies.
I was surprised that it was the same night.
Yeah, pretty great.
And the old sheriff. So the sheriff who had he officially quit his post, or he just was like, I'm
last
leaving.
Week,
this is done. I'm done.
Last week. Yeah.
Dragged back into it, and we find out his wife is pregnant, and that she's going to have this baby imminently on this island. And she's like, and Katie's like, well, Patricia's like, you got to get off.
By the way, Reddit was all over this. Reddit predicted, all these people on Reddit saying that his wife is definitely pregnant. He's talking to her. She's asking for ice cream, whatever. I didn't figure that out at all. Well, everybody else had figured it out because they're like, she's going to be pregnant. And then indeed she's pregnant. And this is actually a great scene and like really showing how Katie O'Flynn is so great at doing this pivot where she goes from being this goofy character and again, like this, like tenaciously, like I am not going to move. I got to say, I love this. It's the writing, but it's also the performance. She fully inhabits this character. Like as soon as you see her just standing there, shaking like a leaf, but still dead set on not moving that gun from this guy's skull. No one's getting in her way. Everybody's just like, you let her do what she's doing. It's like so true to her character. I love every detail of that. It's such I just love just the whole thing. Like the episode is elevated just for that detail. I love it so much. But then she pivots and she sees that Bashir's wife is pregnant and she's like, you need to get off the island now. That kid cannot be born here on this island. And that's obviously one of the payoffs here for what is definitely going to pay off because this storm is going to keep all the ferries at port, I'm pretty sure. So no one's getting off that island. And there's going to be the risk that this baby might be coming in the midst of all that. And I think that's going to be one of the ticking clocks is how do you get, I mean, she can't have the baby on the island, right? Like this baby will be trapped on that island. Or I guess unless they can actually track down the surviving Warrens, if there are more than one, or at least the one. I think it's only going to be one person, but let's speculate on that actually in the conversation. And so that's going to be part of the payoff here at the end as well. You want to say anything else about the slasher elements of this? And then we have to talk about Evan and Tom and their conversation because that's a big part of this too.
Well, just on the slasher kind of genre, was that started with Halloween?
I did a whole episode where I broke down like the history of the slasher film, which goes all the way back. Like there were, horror versions of, I forget the name of this movie. There's like a British movie that deals with all these people on an estate killing each other off and for the money. And this is like in the 1930s. This film was nominated for Best Picture of the Year, by the way. And it opens with one of the family members finding the head of the father in the woods. And it was based on a play. Anyway, that's Agatha Christie becomes this kind of gothic mystery movie where there are someone amongst the people is killing them off. This is very early. Like this starts in their stage plays. And then there's eventually films that are adaptations of those stage plays. So it's like over 100 years old. But the supernatural killer that comes back from the dead, it might be that I'd have to look into, but it's not. Texas Chainsaw is not supernatural. The killer's human. Psycho, of course, not supernatural. And Black Christmas, which is great, by the way, if you've never seen that, which was a direct inspiration for Halloween. But again, we don't have a supernatural killer. And all the giallos, by the way, right? So all the giallos that start in the late 60s and then early 70s, all those Italian slasher movies, again, not supernatural killers. So I think Halloween is the first immortal killer. I think so.
Okay, I might have to track down that episode.
Gotta ask AI. Gotta ask AI.
Yeah, because it's so iconic and it's so ripe for parody as well. It's funny that you can do both. You can have it scary and you can have it funny because it's just such an iconic type of horror trope here. It's just, it's been played so many times, but we keep coming back and watching it. I heard there's In a Violent Nature 2 is also coming out next year or something. So yeah, we can't get enough of this stuff.
Have you ever seen, I have to look, Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon? Have you ever seen this?
No, I've heard of it though.
It's really good. And they're making a sequel to this now. Unlike In a Violent Nature, which only took 2 or 3 years, this one has taken 20 years, and they've been saying they're going to make a sequel to it for a very long time. And it is highly recommended. It's a comedic slasher film, and it's about a journalist who meets a guy who wants to say that he's like, basically, I'm going to be the next supernatural, unkillable killer. And this is a world where like Michael Myers actually exists in the real world, and Jason as well, although they're humans probably that were pretending to be supernatural. So this guy wants to be another one of these. And basically the setup of it is that it's like a mockumentary at first, and then it becomes an actual horror film at about halfway through. And but in the mockumentary part of it, it's very cool. She befriends this guy. She just thinks he's a goofball, and not realizing that he's actually dangerous. And it's actually really interesting. And I kept thinking about it in the context of watching this episode of TV.
Interesting. I'll seek that out. It's got Robert Englund in it, who played Freddy Krueger. So that's
small part,
cool.
But yeah, very good. And supposedly, finally, we'll get a sequel to that one. So do check that out. It's pretty easy to find streaming. And yeah, I also thought about In the Violent Nature. I do wonder, like, it makes you think about things in slasher films that are kind of odd. Like, what is happening when the killer is, single-mindedly pursuing, Michael Myers seems to, over the course of those movies, start off where he might be a human who's like problem solving and stuff, and just obsessed with killing Jamie Lee Curtis's character and all these babysitters, basically. But, that seems to be it. And then the reveal, of course, at the end that there's something supernatural going on, but he still seems to be behaving immediately. With like Halloween 2, it starts being where he just walks at that pace, and it's almost comedic. Like in Halloween 2, which is not as good as Halloween 1, he's like in the hospital and he's walking down the hallway, and the elevator doors are closing, and he's walking too slow. And then he gets there just as the doors close, and he like stabs the knife through the door, but then the door closes all the way and they escape. And it's just like, if he literally had taken 2 steps faster, he would have gotten there. So it's like as if like that's when the recipe becomes like they cannot move faster than this, but they don't stop coming. That's how they get you. It's like zombies. That's how they get you. They're not fast, unless they're fast zombies, of course. But the traditional zombies, they don't get you because they're fast. They get you because they never stop coming.
Yes.
And that's why it made me think about more like a golem or something, which might be I actually want to speculate on this in a serious way, more than just teasing about what it might mean, because I have some theory. We have to have Theory Corner, because we're so close to the end here on the show. We literally have 2 more episodes of the season. Anyway. Maybe there'll be more seasons. Okay. So Evan found the letters, that box of letters. So many questions about this. Tom walks in, so happy. Hey, Evan, you got mail, because he wants to show him that tickets he bought for him. And Enya, by the way, Enya in the soundtrack this week. But not at this moment though. But this is another thing that I thought of. But anyway, so he's shuffling the mail to surprise his son with this, and closes the door. And first of all, hilarious, he closes the door, and you see in the mirror immediately Evan, and he's like, "Hello, Tom." Which I loved. But of course, this gets really disturbing, right? Like, turns out his mom was alive. Turns out.
Wait. Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on. Tom goes, oh no, you've been searching the basement, haven't you?
That's what's in the basement. That's yes. What is in the basement? Yeah. Which he even says, he goes, "What's in the basement? This is the box from your bedroom." Oh God. So yeah, that's one of the, I have a bunch of questions at the end. And one of them is, what is in the basement, for God's sakes? What happened there? That's a whole thing we don't even know about. And of course, Tom is keeping secrets, right? Because we know that this whole thing about his mother.
The secrets are everywhere. He also grabs those photos from behind the bookshelf as well. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think, though? This week comes chilling over time. What do you think about the son going like, "Yes, I have some letters from Mom. Let me read them out." And it's like, I wish you could take your tiny little baby hands and pull the scorpion out of my brain. I'm like, "Oh, thanks for the note, Mom." And apparently he wrote a lot of these letters to him. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. I haven't thought about this too much because it's just so heartbreaking, I think. But I think Tom does a really good job of explaining to his son what happened to his mother, and that she did die in childbirth, and someone else was kind of taken over her brain, or whether it is literally mental illness, or whether it's another kind of thing that this island would do to you. I think it was quite heartbreaking. I thought that the kid was an amazing performer in these scenes, and so the story was that the wife had to go into a home or a mental institution because Tom couldn't keep care of her, and he probably was scared for the safety of his son as well. Pretty terrifying, to be honest. And what a thing for a child to get their head around, not only just reading the letters, but then getting the explanation. I mean, quite shocking.
Yeah, and we had speculated on this last week when I was discussing this with my sister, that exactly that when he was like saying, you have to turn around, the fairy did turn around, and that she's been staying in a mental hospital on the island. And that's how she was able to spend time with the son occasionally, because they were all on the island. So we were like, that must mean she's there on the island somewhere. And unless Tom is lying and she didn't die, although I can't imagine he would, God forbid, he lies to him again. He goes, well, actually, she is still alive. But you know what I was thinking about? She might still be alive at this point, because maybe somebody told him that she died, because you can imagine a situation where he's still going to visit her and it's tearing him apart and she's not getting better. And someone just made an executive decision to be like, let's just tell him that she's dead, but she might still be around, which would be terrifying, but maybe that'll be a payoff here on the show. But most likely she actually has died. And this is just like another death he has to experience. But like you said, she had some kind of mental break. It's probably related to the island. It's probably related to the fact that she left the island while she was pregnant. This is probably why Patricia knows this story and is terrified that this is going to happen to Bashir's wife, or worse, right? If the kid's born on the island, he's trapped on the island. If this happens, you're pregnant and you're too pregnant, or whatever happened to Tom's wife would happen to her as well. So all of that is, a scary situation that she's terrified by. And like I said, the letters are more and more disturbing. There's a little comedy here, by the way, that he starts reading the letters very early in the episode. And then we cut to everything that's happening with Patricia out in the wild, and Wick is looking for her, and all this other stuff is happening. And then we cut back to Tom, and his son is still reading more letters. It's like, how many letters has he read this whole night, reading all these disturbing letters to his dad as of some kind of punishment, and his dad's just sitting there and taking it. But it is interesting at one point where he's like, how could you not told me this? And this is where the sadness and the emotion comes, and so amazingly that the show can do this, that when Tom pulls out those photos of her when she was, and says, this is your mother. Because in the note, she says, I am like two mothers. And there's this one, I don't want you to meet this one. So it's this duality, like you mentioned, that she's fighting inside of herself. And it might be some kind of psychotic break she had, and it might represent that. But when Tom shows the photos and says, she wouldn't want you to know the other version, it's really, those two things are in conversation with each other. But it's also like utterly tragic. Like, this kid didn't get to know his mother, and that Tom's been dealing with this all this time. And it just continuously amazes me on this show that there is this performance from Matthew Rhys and the emotion that comes from this in the middle of this slapstick slasher comedy episode as well.
Yeah, it's genius, isn't it? And just all the details as well. Like, there's a weather report in the background. There's a storm coming. You immediately know, oh God, there's a storm coming. He's never going to see this Red Sox game, is he? And yeah, the way that it flips from comedy to sentimentality to proper drama, it's a genius show. It's really, really clever. I can see the next couple of episodes are directed by Hiro Murai. So we go back to that sense of filmmaking in the first two episodes of the series, which was so good. So yeah, I mean, I'm so looking forward to where this ends up.
Okay, unless you want to touch on anything else, I want to get into speculations. And dig into the mythology a little bit.
Let's do it.
All right. First of all, Reddit got a lot of things right, including the fact that Bashir's wife was pregnant. But my Reddit investigation, thanks to the Reddit bot, but was it AI hallucinating, by the way? This is something that was in the conversation, but was wrong, was my observation last week that the kid back in the flashback episode, the kid who meets Betty Gilpin when she arrives is the same actor who plays Evan's friend, that jerk blonde kid that the dad hates. And Reddit was saying that they were the same actor, but it turns out, no, these are two different actors. So the whole idea that, oh, there's another eternal being on this island. No, Reddit was wrong on that one. And I apologize for anybody who gave too much credence to when I said that. However, some other theorizing that's been going on that we can get into. First of all, so you probably noticed at the end of last week's episode, we knew already, just from watching television shows and watching horror films, that was not the last Warren. And we see the painting. We've seen it multiple times where somebody has fallen off the boat. One of the kids has fallen off the boat and is being rescued from the water. So at least one Warren stayed on the island. Most likely one is what I think happened. And that painting will be important later on. They'll probably, once they take the frame off, you'll see a little more detail as to who might be the person who rescued the kid. But what I was going to say is this is 300 years ago. We're talking over 300 years ago. If there was one Warren on the island 300 years ago, there would be like hundreds or thousands of Warrens on the island now because they can't leave, right? So they would reproduce and stay on the island. Unless, now here's my grand theory, Darren. We've heard so many horrible things have happened on this island. There was cannibalism. There was this ghost ship that there was the plague. There was the witch trials where they burned a bunch of witches. There was the boogeyman. There was the killer clown. What if all these supernatural occurrences are to prune away the Warrens? And if that is true, then Patricia is a Warren.
Oh my God, it's so compelling. It makes sense. The witch trials. Yeah, we got them all, didn't we?
We burned them all. We got them all. We burned them all.
Oh, you're breaking my heart. Patricia is a Warren, so she needs to die for the island to come back. You're probably spot on there, Victor. You're usually right, yeah?
Because I'm just thinking, I was just doing the logic here. And again, if we're like, the island is logically, if one person survived hundreds of years ago, they've all intermarried over the centuries. Half the island is Warrens. Like you have to kill everybody at that point. But I have a feeling that by self-selection or in some ways, the island itself has constrained the number of Warrens that are around. So I think you're looking at one Warren is what you think.
Yes, I agree with that. One Warren. And it's not, I would assume that it's the child that fell off the boat and has been rescued. And they're the one Warren. So they're ageless. They cannot.
Oh, you think they survived? Okay.
Survive and they can't procreate either. So they're just part of the town that never leaves. And I was thinking Wick straight away, but I don't think so. But yeah, it'd be terrifying. Terrifyingly heartbreaking if Patricia is the Warren that they need to kill. But it feels like that you're on the money.
Well, that's my theory, by the way. But just to let you know that 90% of everybody everywhere is like, you idiots, it's Evan, which is even worse, by the way, if that's the decision that has to be made. But I honestly don't think that's what the show is going to do. I think that
the son.
The son, yeah, they're said everybody, like literally, it's like 90-something% of the responses you see across social media is that Evan is the remaining Warren, and I don't think that's the case. I think that to save his son, that Tom has to get rid of Patricia. That's what I think is going to happen.
Oh my God, well, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, how grim would this show go if that's the direction they're going in?
But knowing Kato Flynn, she's going to make it incredibly hilarious. And she might try to sacrifice herself, yeah?
It's possible. I mean, honestly, if she knows, she may very well just do this herself, which would be even more tragic, to be honest.
Well, hopefully she can have one final meal of like a sausage And
oh God, that meal.
and a burger
How
without a bun.
A turkey burger with no bun and the sausage.
But she didn't want to. She just wanted to complain, but not get anyone in trouble. She just wanted to let them know. She couldn't even do that.
Oh, and this is from a Reddit article too, by the way. So 1702, this plague hits the island. 1786, the storm of the century hits. 1810, this ship sinks. 1846, the fog comes, and people say that there's something in the fog and the ghost ship. Of course, that is directly from the Carpenter movie, The Fog. So a lot of this stuff sounds like other things because all these films, like you mentioned, are like an anthology. Even, by the way, the flashback episode is like kind of a folk horror type story. You know, so many of those type of films back in the day that not as popular genre now, but of course very popular at some point. In 1951, the killer clown, serial killer. In 1962, there's a disastrous New Year's Eve event that we don't have a lot of details on, to just mention briefly at the museum. Maybe people all killed themselves, like I'm guessing now that Katie with the throwing the party, maybe that was another instance of something similar.
Yep, the book, yep.
The Boogeyman in 2000, very apropos, of course, to the particular time. Although I guess it should have been the 80s would be a little more apropos. And now, but most importantly, all those things I just said, what's happening now on the island? Maybe it's because the bell hasn't been able to ring and it's been building up in some way, because we have the Boogeyman. We have the fog rolling in. We have a storm of the century coming. Like most of the things I just said, maybe not the plague and stuff like that, but more than half of the things I mentioned have happened, and maybe more of them will happen before the end of the series. And it's like, why is everything happening at once right now? Like this is something, a culmination point of some kind.
So if we follow it through, the priest who hung himself looks like he was murdered. Are you insinuating that Patricia has murdered the priest?
I don't think so, unless she did. What would be really disturbing, by the way, we still need to, but I guess she was keeping a leash on him, literally. We still need to see, and I think this is still going to happen, we need to see the blank spaces between what Tom was doing when he was blanked out. So we need to know. The
mushroom. We need to see his mushroom trip, don't we?
Yeah.
That's going to hold all the answers.
Yeah. So we got to fill in those blanks. And maybe the biggest blank that we need to fill in is when he wakes up and he's at the toilet and he's like, I've been sitting here for 24 hours. And I'm like, he spoke to the demon at that point. So something happened in those 24 hours. So I think that, he may have been in the same position at the end, but stuff happened in between for sure. And that might be a big reveal. And I have to assume that we will find that all out next week, because that would be the setup for whatever is going to come at the end.
Do you know who would the demon be? His wife?
Well, he shows him his wife. But all of this is very vague. I don't think the demon was showing him his wife. That might have just been him in his. But no, see, I might be wrong about that. I was going to say that this demon or whatever, I was going to say he might have just been the fact that he was tripping, and it didn't have anything to do with the demon showing him something that he wanted to see. But I'm going to take that back, because when the sea hag shows up, right before she shows up, he sees his wife handing him tea. So again, the supernatural presence is in the house and shows him this memory of when she was okay.
This series would be great for a rewatch once it's all done. There's so many intricate things that possibly fits together, and hopefully the writing is so good that it will all fit together and it will answer all our questions, and it will make us want to join all the dots by watching it again. Yeah,
I'm very curious to see how it all fits together, and and I agree. I hope that it is a satisfying end, and then that some of these breadcrumbs pay off. But most of all, I want to see those blank spaces, man.
Totally. Yes, I want to see them too.
By the way, I love all the details. If you go back and play that in your mind, or you want to go back and watch it again, there's so many. This is why I'm almost certain that we have to have those fill in the blanks. There's the situation where he goes from one location to the other. People don't know how he gets from one location to the other. And then Patricia, I thought this was a metaphor. I thought that he was seeing something that wasn't there. Patricia actually has him on a dog leash on his hands, and then he runs out the door and like pulls her behind him. And I'm like, I want to see the scene where Patricia's like, I need to keep a leash on him because I keep losing him. And what is he doing that she needs to keep a leash on him? Like, where is he going to that they're losing him, right? So that's all. I think that we need to know what happened in that blank space.
And if she is the remaining Warren and she's almost guiding him through his trip that he's having, that may have some significance too.
I think she might be ignorant to that. If I don't think she knows if that is the case, if that she is the last Warren. But like I said, if my theory is correct that these evil things basically are a curse on the Warrens, and those are the people who are being eliminated by all these catastrophes and killers, etc., then why was the boogeyman going after her? Like literally ignoring everybody else. I mean, he did kill that EMT, but I think he just killed the EMT because the EMT was like just standing in his way. I don't think he did it he just was literally like, she's sitting there. He throws himself out a window to go get her. He makes a beeline for her. And then he only grabs that, the guy with the fire extinguisher, the guy from the gas station, just like Michael Myers, just like because you were standing in his way. That's the only reason he killed that person. So.
And back in the day, he was killing all her classmates trying to find her.
That's a good point, though. Unless they were all Warrens too, that kind of sounds impossible, because then they mean that they were related. But once again, we're talking about an island with a finite number of people, so maybe they are related without even knowing each other. You might be generations removed from being related to each other. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe my theory is falling apart right now as I'm talking about that. But I'm curious.
I'm just a bit disturbed with this incest-riven island that no one can leave.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing, but you have to assume that's the case when you assume that these people. I mean, now I'm playing this out in my mind. Okay, the Warren comes back to shore. Everybody knows that they're a Warren. No one wants to, have kids with this person because of this curse that they believe in, obviously. But maybe eventually a sailor shows up and courts her. They have a child, and then that child has to stay hidden. Because I assume that they probably would, whoever this Warren is, would probably have to be like incognito. But again, you have the math problem that it's just like, why aren't there thousands of these people? Because that would be very funny. It's just like, here's the family tree. 75% of us are related to Warren. Like, well, then the whole island has to go be burned up then. So you guys are screwed.
And there's more to be said about Wick as well and his relationship with the historian.
Yeah.
I think there's more there. There's that photo is very important. I don't think that's the end of that either.
That was a little sad, right? That he's like gonna finally make a move on Jerry. Like, I never got over you. Like, whatever, 50 years later now, and then her new boyfriend walks in. It's just like, oh, hey, honey, how you doing? And he's like, oh, I see.
Oh, was that the button? You think that was a new boyfriend? I just assumed that they'd been together forever, but yeah, maybe.
I mean, I don't know how. Maybe they have been together for a while, but Wick wasn't aware of them. It feels like Wick wasn't aware that they were together. So yeah. More to come.
Awesome. Cannot wait. What a privilege it is to watch this show.
All right, Darren, thank you again for the conversation. Yeah, we'll touch base next week with another episode, of course, the penultimate episode. And if you see Backrooms, maybe we can discuss it as well.
Yeah, maybe I'll prioritize Backrooms over He-Man, but I can't promise anything.
Go see He-Man. Give us a report. That there's going to be no kids in the audience, by the way. They're going to be like, the kids are going to show up for toys they never played with. No, they're all going to be 45 years old. That's just how it is.
I jumped on YouTube. I was showing my youngest the 80s opening to He-Man, and she's like, what are you doing, Dad? What are you watching? And then I showed her the opening to She-Ra, and it was exactly the same, just with the female protagonist, almost the same words, the same format of the opening. It's just like, well, that's how we did things in the 80s. What worked, we just did it and put a female instead of a male, and it worked.
Well, you know who Skeletor is in this movie, right? So, I mean, that's box office poison right there. So.
I do not. Oh, no, I do. Oh, yes. Okay. Yep. Enough said.
So the movies, they got to lose money because that's just guaranteed now. So.
Oh, poor guy.
Talk about curses. That's the curse right there.
Well, he sold his soul to still look like a teenager when he's 50 something.
That's right. So he could date teenagers, apparently.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, Darren. We'll touch base next week and touch on all those things.
All right. Cheers, Victor.
All right.